Hi everybody, my name is Hannah and this is Pepper and Pine, and I have a homeschool haul to share with you today. These materials, mainly books, have been collected over the past several months and I'm going to share them with you today. Now, some of these materials I have used already in some of our unit studies, so I can tell you a little bit more about them and direct you to the unit studies that we have used them for. And other materials are brand new to me, so I'm going to be opening them up for the first time with you. You can find more details and all of the book selections that I have on my website at the blog post that accompanies this video. You can find that link down in the description box below. Now, the majority of these items were purchased from one of two places, either Amazon or bookshop.org, and you can find both of those vendors down in the description box below. So I'm going to just dive right in. Now, some of these things are recommendations that I got from other people, and I am super sorry that I don't remember everyone who has recommended some of these items, but I so appreciate when you recommend either books or other materials to me, especially those of you who have been watching my videos for a while or have been enjoying my content on my website for a while. You know the kinds of things that I gravitate towards, and so I really appreciate all the recommendations. Okay, so I'm going to dive in to the first recommendation that was offered to me, and this one is called The Silk Roads. And the reason why I'm really excited about this book is because we've already read the book called The Silk Roads by Peter Frankopan. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And it's way really dense, way more dense than we were expecting for our purposes, and I didn't really care for it. And you can find more about that book on the units that we did for the Silk Roads and for like Marco Polo and North Africa and Asia. We did a lot of history units for those areas, and so that book came up. So this book is actually completely I wish I had found this book first, because it's completely different than the original book, which was just text. This is written, in my opinion, for a younger audience, definitely for a younger audience, and it's filled with these gorgeous illustrations. So I'm really, really excited to read this, although we are now moving to the end of our Silk Road units, and so we may not be able to read the entire thing with these units this year. It may be something that we visit in the future when we revisit these units. But what I'm really excited about this is that I'm hoping that the information is a little bit more digestible for us, because when we were reading the original book the first time, it was more information than we needed, and a lot more, in my opinion, and I'm not a historian, so I really don't know, but it felt like fringe historical events that were being used in order to populate the book, and I just felt like it just didn't sit well with me, and I had some issues with the chapter on Islam. So I'm really looking forward to incorporating this book into our history units. Okay, so the next book I want to share with you is called "'Tis the Night Before Eid," and this one was actually sent to me by Yasmin, who is the author, and I am really pleased to now have so many options when it comes to, well, I say so many options compared to what was available when I first had children, when we were first homeschooling. And so I'm really appreciative that so many authors are and illustrators are filling this pocket for us, because it's been feeling like a void. Well, it felt like a void when I first had my children back in the late 90s and early 2000s, and into the 2011 when I had my last child. And in that time span, we saw this growth in picture books and chapter books for the Muslim audience. And so I'm really pleased that there are even more today that you can choose from, and they're getting more specific. I have a number of books on hijab, a number of books on Ramadan, and this one is on Eid. So I really appreciate having those and being able to incorporate them into our lessons and into our reading with my children. So this book is intended for a really young audience, and my youngest now is 10. So although it is beyond maybe her enjoyment level or her reading level or just as a picture book, her level, she actually really enjoyed it. And that's the magic, I think, of picture books, is that they're going to appeal to such a wide range of ages, even when the content seems really juvenile. Okay, so one other thing that was gifted to me that I am super, super excited to share with you is this prayer carpet that is made from wool, and it is child size, and it is absolutely stunning. It's so gorgeous. It has these really beautiful stars and a crescent moon design on it, and it has a really delicate fringe here on the end, like the top part, and on the bottom in this yellow, and then the reverse side is the yellow with the blue stars and the blue crescent. So we will probably have it this way. This is just so beautiful. I had my eye on this, and so I'm really appreciative that it was gifted to me. And this is child size, although when we're out, and I wouldn't probably take this out to have just like on concrete or whatnot. I would have this indoors or at the masjid. But when we're out, we have smaller prayer carpets that we just have in the car. And so even though this is a child-sized prayer carpet, I feel like an adult can still use it. And I'm really, really happy to have it. And this inspired a project for us that we're going to be doing with our Golden Age of Islam unit, where my 14-year-old son is actually making his own prayer carpet, and he's midway through it. It's looking beautiful, and now it's inspired all of us to make one. So that was the original inspiration, came from this one, which is going to be part of just our everyday use, but also especially for Ramadan, we're going to have this out in our living room as part of the things that we are decorating the house with. So this was not purchased, and nor will you be able to find it on Amazon or bookshop.org. So please check the description box below so that you can find yours as well. All right, so let's move on to another book that I'm really, really pleased to share with you. This is called Sam the Junior Herbalist. This is book 1 in a series, The Case of the Tummy Troubles. Now, I haven't read this yet. We've had this now for a couple of weeks, and I am really anxious and excited to read it. The author is someone who I've known for a while virtually. It's Angela Rahim, and she is an herbalist, and she has now written a few books. This is only the first one that's come out. And I really appreciate this book to add to not just our botany units, but actually one specifically on herbs, because we do have the game, I think it's called Wildcraft, and it's all about herbs. And it's something that I kind of overlook in our botany studies. I sort of overlook the medicinal qualities of the plants that are all around us. You're going to find things in every location of the world that have some kind of quality, which is such a beautiful thing that we don't have to travel halfway across the planet in order to find something that's going to be helpful for us for whatever particular ailment we have. And so I really appreciate this book bringing that aspect of plants, the medicinal part, to a young audience so that they can have, I would imagine, a greater appreciation for all of the plants that are around us. And I believe that it was illustrated by her sister, which is really cool. And I believe they're twins too, which is kind of a cool thing too. All right, so let me put that one aside and dive into, one more thing that I want to share with you that I did not buy. This was gifted to me. And then I believe everything else we did purchase either from bookshop.org or from Amazon. This one you can find at Megan's website, Rooted Childhood, Create and Connect Through the Seasons. This is the full year collection. This is phenomenal. I absolutely love it so much. Now, I believe that you can find this as a print copy or a digital version, and I believe that you can find them each by the season itself. This is the full year collection. This is so worth it, especially if you're just starting out and you have young children, even if you haven't even started homeschooling. If you just have young children and you're looking for ways to bring arts and crafts and cooking and song into your daily rhythm and daily life, I highly recommend this book. Now, while I haven't done a lot of these projects yet, you can see that a lot of these pages are flagged, but a lot of these things we have done, or I would say some of these things we have done our own versions of already in our homeschool over the years. And so I'm really pleased to see this collection, everything gathered together in one place, and so beautifully done. It is stunning. It reminds me a little bit of, like, say, a Martha Stewart magazine, except every single page is something that you could do. There are no ads that you have to sift through, and it's so beautifully presented. It's just a feast for your eyes. And so I'm so pleased to have this in our collection. And here's the thing, while I think at the beginning of the book it says something about the age range, and it might just say up until maybe 8 or 9 years old. I can't remember actually, and I could be really wrong on that. I would say that this is good all the way up until middle school, up until puberty. All of these things you're going to find a way, or rather I would imagine that your children would find joy in this. Maybe not in every single project, but I think in the majority of the projects. So even if you have older children, I would still recommend this. And by older children, I mean up until about 13 years old. I've noticed that with my children, once they hit puberty, all of the things that they really enjoyed as children, they don't find the same joy in it. They might do it, but they don't find the same joy in it. They have moved on to other activities and other kinds of books, and they're using different parts of their brain, and they don't quite resonate the same way with the same things that they did when they were younger. So I highly recommend this book. You can also find links to where you can find this on the blog post that accompanies this video. Okay, so let me make a stack of the things that I've already showed you so that we can make room for some new things, because I have quite a lot to share with you. So this book is called Lost Enlightenment, and this is going to be a really thick, dense read for our unit on the Golden Age of Islam, or the Islamic Empire. I haven't really known what to name it, but it's basically going to be a time span of about the 600s through to about the 16 or 1700s. And so I'm hoping that this book will coordinate. Now, a lot of the books that I'm getting for that unit are going to either be super young, elementary for my daughter who's 10, or they're going to be high school level and adult level for my son who is 14. So some of these books are ones that if I were going to read, they would be well suited to read aloud to, say, high school students and older. And I have done that in our homeschool. I still read aloud even to my high school students, even though they will also read to themselves and they'll have assigned reading, but I have not given up on read alouds, even at that age. And this, what I found is that even when you're reading older content, younger students are going to absorb what they can understand. Now, there is kind of a transition. When you hit adult books and college age books and high school books, the younger students' ability to get information from those texts is going to be far less than if you were reading a book that was, say, junior high, middle school, older elementary. A younger student is going to get far more from that. There is this transition in post-puberty, like just in high school, where all of a sudden you've entered like this whole other area of cognitive ability. And so what I find is that my young high schoolers, they can enjoy all the books for adults in college and high school, but they'll absorb what they're capable of. And then you have this other big chunk of time from about ages 5 to about 13, where those students can also understand content that is beyond them. They'll just absorb what they're capable of doing. So I hope that gave you some insight on how we're choosing our books, how we're reading them, and how I think that even reading a book that's above someone's grade level is still going to be beneficial. Okay, so given that we have a lot of content to cover with our Islamic history, or rather our Islamic unit, this will be something that I assign to my student. However, a lot of times I prefer to read these books aloud just so that we have an opportunity to discuss them along the way, or just, reflect on them. And so it might be something that we revisit again when we go through that unit. Fractions in Disguise. I got this book for my 10-year-old who is going to be embarking on her fractions journey really soon. And I love using living books for our education in general. And so this book is going to work well for this math unit. And I tend to enjoy doing a lot of experiential work and hands-on activities before we actually get down to the bringing our pencil to paper and working through our math concepts. And so again, I will use our living books to introduce math concepts and to work through them, and then especially to review them. So books are going to find a place in every aspect of that learning journey as we go through these different topics. If you were me and lived in Renaissance Italy, and if you were me and lived in the Middle Ages, these are two new books. I've got even two more in this series. If you were me and lived in Mali, and if you were me and lived in ancient China. All four of those books are by the author Carol P. Roman, and they are amazing. Now, I didn't like them at first. You'll notice that the illustrations, they seem like a little bit blurry to me. And at first I thought they were misprinted because I only had one book to begin with, and it was the Ancient China book. And I thought that the quality was a bit poor. And then you have all of the writing on this side, and I kind of was a little bit disappointed at first. And there's quite a bit of writing if you'll see. And that's not a problem in and of itself, but I didn't expect that to be this book, especially looking at the cover. However, once we read the first one, my daughter and I completely fell in love with the book so much that we ended up going back and looking for all of the other books in the series. And so there are quite a few. Today I'm going to share with you two of them, but you can find more selections on the blog post that accompanies this video. I love it so much, primarily because it begins by relating the history to the child. So it is, if you were me and lived in the Middle Ages, if you were me, so if you were a child, so not if you were an adult and lived in the Middle Ages. And my daughter's favorite part of the book is at the very, very beginning when it talks about what name you would be given, what name you might have if you lived in that time period. Okay, so if you were a boy in this time in history, your name could have been Jeffrey or Raoul, which is kind of cool. So whether you're a boy or a girl, and they also have girl names, what my daughter would immediately, she'd be the most interested in that part of the story. Oh, what name would I have if I lived in the Middle Ages or in Renaissance Italy? That's her favorite part of the book. And what I feel that does, and maybe other aspects of the introduction or the first few pages, what I feel it does is it connects that student or that child to the content. And then you're going through imagining what your life might be like. Whether you lived in a noble family or a peasant family, or you were the son or daughter of royalty, I think I said royal family, or merchant family. So each book kind of gives you that relationship of what your life might be like depending on the family that you were with. And so that brings immediate connection, in my opinion, to the material. And then you're able to read through some of the more dense material that maybe you would find not very interesting in a nonfiction book, but you find it really captivating in a book that's told in this manner with this kind of story and this kind of narrative. So I really, really enjoyed these books. I was excited by the cover. I was disappointed initially, and then totally flipped the other direction and love them so much that I keep searching for more in this series. So I highly recommend these books. And then I'll give you a quick look at the one for Renaissance Italy. They mostly have one illustrator, but this one has a different illustrator than these ones. The Ancient China has the same illustrator, I believe, and same with Ancient Mali. But this one has a different one, and you can see the images they're clearer in some ways, richer in some ways, but they still kind of look like they've been kind of enlarged in a way and then printed, which once I started reading the book, I didn't even mind those details, although I super, super appreciate the high quality of books and the paper texture that really delights me. So this one, not so much for the quality, but for everything else, just amazing. Okay, so I want to share with you some of the projects that we're also getting for our physics unit. Our physics unit has been a year-long unit, but we did a ton of projects and reading books at the start of the year, and then again we are revisiting it in the springtime towards the end of the year. In the wintertime we do a lot of our history units, and so we did not do a lot during the winter with our physics unit and our chemistry unit, although that was the intention, in part because I was waiting for supplies. So they're here now, super excited, now we can dive into them. This stuff is really new to me, so I'm learning alongside with my 14-year-old son. This is learn how a motor works. This is a current spin. Make an electric motor model current spin. And so this is something that I love, the hands-on project. So this is something that my son will do. And I find that that's just a really great way to learn, is by actually doing the projects. So let me put that one aside, and let me put this one aside. I'll show you that one in a minute. And let me show you some of the other physics materials that we have. So this is Physical Circuit Experiment, and that is the guide, the instructional guide that comes with it. Comes with a ton of stuff that I don't know much about, so this is going to be new to me. However, I've been homeschooling for a while, so I have one son who is done with university and he's working now, and then another son who's in the middle of his college journey and has done so much with physics that he understands all of this stuff. So he's actually going to be teaching both of us, myself and my 14-year-old, how to do a lot of these projects, which is just, for me, the most beautiful thing, because when you have the opportunity to teach something, it means that you now know it well enough to teach. So there are several parts to learning something. There's the introduction, there's the proficiency, there's the mastery. And when you get to the point where you can actually explain it to someone else, that means that that is a deeply learned idea, concept, or skill. And so I'm really excited to dive into this with my 19-year-old son and my 14-year-old son, because if I were doing this on my own, I'd be thoroughly confused and just not knowing what to do, and probably would put it aside or just invite my student to explore it on his or her own. So this comes with a lot of things that I don't even know the names of to explain them to you, so I'm not going to open this up. However, if you want to see all of the projects that we are doing for our physics unit, you can find a course on my website at pepperandpine.com, and you can buy that course and see all of the videos. So you're not going to see any of them here on my channel publicly. You can find them all on that course page. Right now there are about 30 videos, and it will continue to grow with all of the projects and tutorial videos that we are doing for our physics unit over the course of several years. And you can find all of those videos there if you are interested. Okay, so let's move on to another physics project or kit. This is Electricity Master Lab. So you can see a theme here. We've got a lot of electricity in our physics unit going on, as well as we did acoustics, we did thermodynamics, we did mechanics, and so there are other aspects to our physics unit that we're doing, but I did get a lot of kits that have to do with electricity, and so this is one. It is not opened yet. Let me see if I can at least show you what comes inside in case you want to get something like this. Oh, wow. That is really, really nicely done. I'm just going to stick it upside down here for a minute just so that you can see the entirety of what comes in this kit. I love it when things are laid out this way. It makes it super easy to see what you're getting. You also have the book here, which is going to be super, super important to doing these projects. Wow, that actually comes with a lot of information. I'm really impressed with the book. That's going to be really helpful in being able to use this with success. I just don't care for the styrofoam, but other than that, it's really well done. So to see, again, the projects that we're doing with this kit, you'll be able to find them on my website on the course page for physics. Okay, let's move on to another, I guess, just materials we're using for more of our physics demonstrations and our physics labs. This one is for, gosh, it's for, not vibrations, for waves. And I can't remember which lessons in particular these are for. So these springs, I think that's what I got them for, are of different, they're different coils. Like they're coiled tightly, they're coiled more broadly, and we're going to be using them to just kind of see the difference between them, I believe. And I will let you know more about how there's actually doubles in here. There's quite a few. Oh, that's actually kind of nice. To find out more information on how we're using these, you can check out the physics course page, and then yeah. I'm enjoying playing with these right now. Okay, so let me put these aside and show you one more thing. Opening these up as a haul means that I don't know too much about all of these materials, but if you want to know more about them, you can check out all of my review videos. Then you'll be able to see how we liked the materials that we got, how we use them, whether we got through them, whether I recommend them. I have review videos for most of our units, and that way you can really get a good idea on how these items fared in our homeschool. So the next item I want to show you is Manned Labs Step by Step. This was really, really pricey. I want to say, well, really pricey compared to, buying books, which you're going to find for less than $20. This was over $150, or it was just simply $150. And the reviews were mixed for this. And some people were saying that it was a poor value because the items that you got in this kit were not worth more than about $15 or $20. And when I showed my 19-year-old son, he said the same things. He's like, these are things that you bought me, is what he said. That I did buy him some of these things for him to work on his own. He's 19. He's doing physics in college. And so when I got this kit, he's like, oh, these items are super inexpensive. But he's like, you probably the value of the kit is the lessons and the information on how to use them. So, and also, I really appreciate how nicely packaged it is. So there are tools here, and there is also this area up here that has some materials here. I'm going to carefully open it. It sounds like there are a lot of small things in here. Okay, nicely packaged. A lot of things I don't recognize. When we got this, it actually came with an extra, I believe it was with this kit, some extra of these. It's possible that the ones in the kit needed to be replaced with these. I'm not sure, but I just want to say that I appreciate that the company did that, knowing that maybe some people had some issues with them, or I'm not sure. And so that was good of them to do that, because if you don't have success with a project due to failure in the materials, you're not going to know whether it was the materials or the failure of the project itself. So I appreciate that they were able to do that so that you can have greater success with your projects. Okay, and then also there's more here. Hold on. Okay, open here. It's really well packaged. All these like extra little bits and oh great. So then in here, oh, here we go. You have the manual that goes along with it. And this is, I think, what you're really paying for, because unless you know how to do these labs on your own, you're not going to, I think, know how to use these materials. At least I'm not going to know how to use these materials. Maybe you could figure them out. And so you have the Electronic Series kit number 1 and kit number 1 as well. Oh, book 1 and book 2. Oh, wow. So this is beyond my skill set. So this will be a learning journey for me. And I'm really happy that my 19-year-old knows how to do this stuff. And I didn't teach him. He learned in school, so college that is. And then I want to show you one last part that's in here. That would be up here. Breadboard. Okay. So this is the breadboard. Okay. And this is a thing. Like, I know because I seen my son use his, but I can't tell you much about it. So as a kit, I find this to be really well done with everything that you need all in one spot with the manuals. Really good, but it is really pricey in my opinion compared to the other things that we typically get when we're getting things that are, you know, less than $20, less than $40. And so to put a lot of money into this means that you have to be prepared to learn how to use it if you don't know how to use it, and be prepared to spend the money as well. So excited to dive into that, which we're going to be doing really soon. Okay, so that was all of the physics stuff. So let me speed through some of these other things, and then you make some space for it. Okay, so Harry Potter, everyone knows Harry Potter, right? But these are the new illustrated collection. So this set comes with books 1, 2, and 3, or year 1, 2, and 3. So you have the Sorcerer's Stone and the Chamber of Secrets and the Prisoner of Azkaban. And I will put this aside and show you this one because they're all similar in their illustrated styles and the writing. So this is new, so they don't even actually have the whole series. Otherwise, I would have purchased books 1 through 7. So this is the Goblet of Fire, and what I thought at first was that the text was actually going to be a larger print, but I feel like this text is probably the same size that you would find in the regular book. So part of the reason why I bought this is because I thought that the print was going to be larger. Doesn't matter, still going to keep it because the illustrations are so amazing. I love the illustrations so much. And while all of my children have already read or listened to Harry Potter, this is definitely something, because of the illustrations, I do want to just cozy up with my 10-year-old daughter and read this aloud to her. And that's something that we can do together. Although I originally ordered this so that she would be reading this on her own, but I really was hoping that the print would be larger so it's a little bit easier for her. But the illustrations are definitely going to be enjoyable. So that is, I'm really excited about this. Flipping through this, it's just going to be such a huge distraction. I love it. Okay, so they have books 1 through 4 available, and books 1 through 3 are available as a set. So we bought this as the box set, which is super gorgeous. And then we bought 4 by itself. And then I'm sure as the rest of the books are released, they'll probably have a huge box set. They are hardback. They are so heavy and they are just really big and really dense, but super inviting with all of the illustrations. So really excited about this. Okay, let's put that aside. And I want to share with you a few things that you're going to that you're not going to see moving forward. You would have already seen in some of the units that we already did. However, because we got them as our units were already taking place, I didn't have them as a haul video, but you will have seen them either in how we put together the unit or the review video for the unit. So this one's called African Dominion. This was again part of our Greater Silk Road unit on West Africa and the empires of Mali, Songhai, and Ghana. And so African Dominion, I added this one. I had seen it, I think on a post on Instagram, and I thought this would be just right for an addition to that particular unit, with the intention that my 14-year-old would read this, or I would read it aloud to him. We actually completed the unit before the book arrived, so we did, I believe, share it in the review video, but we hadn't actually used it at all. However, as we continued with our Silk Road units and we got to our Ibn Battuta unit and North Africa, and of course, he was only in North Africa for a short period of time because he traveled across the Muslim world. So we used this book again with our Ibn Battuta unit, but very sparingly. And part of what I realized was that this book actually used, I believe, information and references from Ibn Battuta's journey rather than this information coming from another source and then learning about Ibn Battuta from a different source. So I believe most of the information, there are some other references. I think Ibn Khaldun is mentioned as well, but primarily Ibn Battuta's text is used for this chapter, and we had already read the journey of Ibn Battuta, and so then it just was a little bit redundant. However, I would still encourage you to explore this book if you are doing an Africa unit. I don't know which locations of Africa this book covers in its entirety. I just know that we did use that part for our Ibn Battuta unit and for our West Africa unit. And this would be high school and college level. Okay, we are getting to the end, I promise. As we are still about to do our Islamic unit, and the way I do our history units is we like our hands-on projects, we like to get to the kitchen, we like our cultural books, we like our biographies, we do picture books, historical fiction. So we really pack quite a lot in. So this book, it's called Feast, Food of the Islamic World. And so this is going to go through, and let me move this other book that's below it for a moment. This book is going to go through lots of different countries. It is gorgeously done. The photographs are so beautiful. It's got this really nicely laid out format with the large text, and I love the font. I love all of these aspects. I haven't tried any of the recipes yet, but just the presentation makes you feel like it's something special. So I love the font. I love the titles. I love the little motifs that are included. And then it has the recipes, and it seems like it's well laid out. There aren't photographs for every recipe, which is fine. Some of our best cookbooks have pretty much no photographs of the food at all, and that actually is a curious thing. I was trying to decide which ones I liked better because this is so gorgeous. But what I ended up doing was that I ended up choosing recipes based on how beautiful they looked rather than on the recipe themselves when I have books like this. Versus when I have cookbooks that are just print, I end up exploring the recipe a little bit more and trying out things that I might not have tried out if I saw a picture of it. So I think there are pros and cons to both. This is such a feast for your eyes as well as your belly, I'm sure. And it's just a really beautiful presentation. What I love about cookbooks from around the world is that you're going to learn something about that region, about that history, about ingredients that maybe you're not typically using in your own cooking, and that really enhances the whole aspect of using these cookbooks, and it enhances that educational experience for our units. So super enjoying this book. Okay, so my daughter has already flagged a bunch of pages. I actually stuck the flags into the book. She's flagged a bunch of pages, and she's only gotten through like the first section. So we're going to have a lot of cooking to do. And as Ramadan is coming up, it's going to be a great time to explore some of these for iftar, for our dinner after a day of fasting. So really excited about this. Okay, the next book I want to show you is also another really big, hefty book. I cannot believe I didn't know this book was this big. It is nearly 1,000 pages, and there are 2 available, and I have right now grades 4 through 8, but I actually want to get grades 1 through 3, and initially I had ordered that one, and mistakenly this one had come because my daughter is 10, so she's right at the end of where she would be with grade 3, embarking on grade 4, and I really wanted to make sure that we had covered the material in a way that was developmentally appropriate for her. And so now we have the next set, grades 4 through 8. Now this is an incredibly dense book. I'm fairly positive that it is written for teachers, And it also, of course, goes through the Waldorf perspective or the teachings of Rudolf Steiner when it comes to education. So you're going to get a lot of that mixed in as you go through these. They're not really lessons, but as you go through this information, you're going to find a lot of references to the Waldorf philosophy of education, or based on Rudolf Steiner's teachings, lectures, and information back from about, 100 years ago. So I'm really excited about this. I'm finding that even though I may not have known this stuff to begin with, there are aspects that are intuitive in my opinion. And as you are parenting and schooling your children, you're going to find these natural opportunities, not always, and not if you are feeling the pressure from other homeschoolers or from what the expectations are for children. But if you're looking at it from a very intuitive, natural perspective, a lot of these things that are taught are just right for the child and just appropriate for their development. And that's what I really love about it, is that you're not fighting the child. You are really enhancing what that child can do. Okay, so I'm really excited about this. There's no way that I'm going to get through this anytime soon. It's going to be a reference material primarily. Okay, so the last stacks of books, I save them for last because you can find actually complete videos here on my YouTube channel as well as on my website on the materials that I want to share with you. But because they missed getting their own or being part of a homeschool haul, I'm sharing them with you now very quickly. Okay, so these books were actually all gifted to me. I meant to share the fact that they were gifted to me at the beginning of this video, so I apologize. But these were all gifted to me from Siraj Bookstore. I'm really, really enjoying that vendor so much. They have so many things for the Muslim and non-Muslim families. And this is something that I think we forget when we are looking for materials. I do a secular homeschool, but I bring in obviously a lot of things that are relevant for my religion, but the base of our homeschool is secular. And however, a lot of these books I think are just right for any audience, not just for the Muslim audience. However, because they are written by Muslims, you're going to find possibly Islamic verbiage or Arabic verbiage throughout the book, and therefore possibly someone who isn't Muslim might not be able to completely understand, or maybe they would be confused by some of those extra terms. However, I think that it is such value for any audience, the books that I'm going to share with you. So looking through this really quickly, I just want to see if you are going to find Arabic words that only Muslims would really understand. And honestly, I'm not seeing any of them now. The things that you would typically find are that after names of the prophets or Prophet Muhammad in particular, you will say Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, or peace be upon him. And if it's written in Arabic, of course, if you don't speak Arabic, you wouldn't know how to read that. And if it's written in English, sometimes it's just an abbreviation of letters, and of course that would not make sense to someone unless they knew what that was. And then there will be other words that are around other people's names, or certain Islamic concepts that might be written with the Arabic term rather than the translated term. But so far, I'm not seeing any of that in these books. So this is an entire series. I think I have the whole series, but I'm not sure if some of them were out of stock or not. I apologize. But this is the Age of Bliss series. So you have Prophet Muhammad, and that says Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and that's something that we say after the name. You also, when you're saying the names of the companions, you can also have blessings on them, or actually, I don't know the translation of this well, so I apologize. But there are other words that you say, like maybe may they be have mercy on them, or blessed, or forgiven. You know, there are honors that you give to names of the companions and the prophets. Okay, so this one is on Ali ibn Abi Talib, Fatima bint Muhammad, Hassan and Hussein ibn Ali, Khadija bint Khawalid, Uthman ibn Affan, Aisha bint Abu Bakr, Abu Bakr Siddiq, Khalid ibn al-Walid, and Umar ibn al-Khattab. And so these books, except for this one is over 100 pages. The rest of them are about 80 pages or so. They're written, I would say this is maybe a 4th or 5th grade level, I would imagine. I'm not actually really good with the grade level, so I apologize. These would be read alouds for us, although my 14-year-old could simply read them on his own, but I prefer to do these as read alouds. I like that the chapters are really short. It seems like it's they're really easy text to get through. However, we haven't read them yet. I love how each cover has a unique motif and color. I like those aspects of the books. So, and they're really affordably priced at about $6 a piece. So I find that to be just overall ideal, really wonderful. Okay, so these ones, oh, that one I shared a long time ago. So that one I don't think was part of it. So these ones are Step Into Reading, and this is going to be about some other historical figures, not at the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him. This would be more during, like, say, the expansion of Islam into modern day Iran and Iraq and into Turkey and India and across North Africa. So these books, I actually don't really care for them as much, but I was hard pressed to find picture books on some of these individuals, and so I did get these. I don't really care for the illustrations, and the text is quite minimal, but because I didn't have anything else, I am super, super pleased to include these with our units. So we have 4 Ibn Haytham, Ibn Sina, I don't know how to pronounce that name, I'm so sorry, and Imam Abu Hanifa. And so let me put these aside and show you the last stack of books that you're going to find a lot more information on for our Alaska unit. I will share these with you really quickly. These are books that we got for our Alaska unit study, which we did in January of this year. And you might be watching this at another time. So you can find the link to that playlist and that blog post down in the description box below if you'd like to explore our Alaska unit and get more information on the books that I'm sharing with you right now, in the how we put together that unit, and especially in the review video. So once we got going on our Alaska unit, I actually added a lot more projects and books to our unit once we got started, because the unit would have only just been a few days, because picture books are really easy to read, and I found that I needed more books to really round out our unit. So the last 2 books to be added to the unit were Bite of the Gold Bug. This is a story of the Alaskan Gold Rush. So it looks like a pretty easy read, about maybe grade 4 or so, and this would be a read aloud that I'm doing with my 10-year-old daughter. We have Call of the Klondike, and this is a true gold rush adventure. So as we were doing our Alaska unit, I realized that I didn't have any books on the Alaska Gold Rush, and so I wanted to include something for my 10-year-old daughter and for my 14-year-old son. So this was one that my 14-year-old son read. He really enjoyed it. I was kind of surprised because there were a lot of historical artifacts that were included in this book in the form of letters and telegrams and other things, and I thought he might not enjoy that much, but he actually really did. I find it a little bit difficult to go through a text that has those additional bits and pieces in them, but he really enjoyed it quite a bit. Okay, so we have Arctic White. So now we have a ton of picture books, really beautifully illustrated. I'm going to just recommend that you head over to the review video to find out more about all of these books. Jan Brett and her book Cozy. She actually has a lot of other books as well, and really nicely illustrated. The Peregrine's Journey, the story of migration. Again, another beautiful picture book that's not just about Alaska. We got it because of the migration of the birds in and out of the Arctic tundra. A Search for the Northern Lights. I would just like to report that my sister the reason why we did this unit was inspired by my sister's I have an older sister who recently moved to Alaska, near Mount Denali in a little town called Talkeetna. And when we visited her in January, which then inspired this whole unit, We did not see the Northern Lights, but I'm happy to report that in the last couple of months she has, and they are so stunning. I simply can't believe it. I recognize her house. I see the lights in the sky. Her pictures are beautiful. I just cannot believe it, that we missed it. And I really hope that one day we can see them. So this is a book called The Search for the Northern Lights. Storm Run. This is the story of the first woman to win the Iditarod sled race. So we learned all about dog sledding when we were up there and the Iditarod. And this book was fabulous. Really enjoyed learning about that. Granite, the Iditarod champion. This is the story of, I believe, the second woman who won the Iditarod race, and her dog, whose name is Granite, who was not a champion dog to begin with, and that whole story, that was really beautiful. The Story of Snow. This is a nonfiction book on snow, and we did a lot of projects based on this book. Really enjoyed it. Really nicely done. Whale Snow. This is a tribal tale from the Inupiat people in the Arctic Circle. And so this is just a story about the whale snow. How Devil's Club Came to Be. This is a really beautifully illustrated book on how a particular medicinal plant came to be, which is grown throughout Alaska and even on my sister's property, which was really neat to have that connection. Raven and the Tide Lady. This is another tale, a legend on how the tides came to be. So a lot of the native tales, the tribal tales, the stories that you're going to hear, a lot of them are explanations of natural phenomenon, and they're told with things that are possibly particular for a particular region, because these ones focus on Alaska and parts of Canada and the Arctic tundra. And so there are certain animals that you're going to see in these tales, maybe more so than in other tales that you find in other parts of the world. And it's beautifully illustrated. I love these two books. Born to Mush. This is the Dallas CV story. And so again, we learned a lot about dog sledding and the Iditarod race when we were up there. And this is a biography of Dallas CV. We really enjoyed this book. I'm not really into sports, and I found this to be really thrilling. So if you're into sports, you probably find all of it thrilling. But if you're not, you might check this out because I thought it was really well done. And then the last book I want to share with you is called The Woman Who Married the Bear. I did not like this story too much for a few different reasons, but it is a really beautiful addition to our Alaska unit with some nice illustrations. All right, well, I think that covers it all. Thank you so much for joining me for this homeschool haul video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to see some of the unit studies that we have been doing with these materials, you can tap on the screen right now. Those links are also in the description box below. Don't forget to check out the blog post that accompanies this video for more information. And if you'd like to see how we're using these books on a daily basis, you can find me on Instagram at Pepper and Pine.